What's up? What up? What up? We're here. I feel like we're a little. I love the lighting today. Okay, we're gonna hop into it. Another episode of Chatting with a. Oh, wonderful. My guest just joined. Beautiful Sunday morning. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Sunday.
Yes. Happy Sunday.
This is one of the quicker connections because I feel like you only just discovered me like yesterday.
Yeah, like 2 days ago.
Amazing. And now we're already talking. I love that.
It's crazy. Like, I had this download last week where I was like, I need to start a podcast of interviewing natural bodybuilders. And then literally the next day I found your page. So,
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. And this could be like the beginning of that endeavor. So I would love to just give the floor to you. You come off as a very passionate person and a very passionate athlete. So I would love to hear more about where that passion originated for natural bodybuilding.
mm. um, so I guess I could say that it came from like my dance background. So I was a trained dancer and I took that very seriously. I mean, I was always an athlete growing up. So I did track and field in school, was like super fast, always competed and just loved being in sports. I played rugby, was a cheerleader, all that kind of stuff. So the athlete in me has always been there.
Hmm.
And when I found bodybuilding, I didn't even know that there was like an enhanced or natural. It was just like, I want to lift weights. And so it just never even dawned on me that like people were enhancing. I, when I found bodybuilding too, it was more of like, I need to heal my body from years of dance because that really kind of takes a toll on you. And so I was just doing it because it made me feel good. And then it was like, then I started getting the like, oh my God, you should compete, this kind of thing. And yeah, and so it just like never, it was of course presented to me. And I think we should talk about how it was presented to me, that enhanced. And it was just like so, I was like honestly quite appalled. And not to offend anyone, but it was like, I was like, what? No, that's and so it kind of like from there has become like a thought like I would just never do that, and then I kind of just like keep standing by that ground, so it's kind of just grown this concept of like I will forever be a natural athlete, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's something I've run into. So I've only been immersed in the sport. I didn't know that natural bodybuilding existed either. And I discovered it. I discovered the circuit, I think, 3 years ago at this point. And in my travels, that seems to be a recurring thing where an athlete who is encouraged to compete as a bodybuilder, they start dipping their toe in, and it's very quickly that they're approached saying, "Hey, listen, if you want to be a high competitor within this sport, you're gonna have to take steroids," and that has turned people off, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it was my like very first exposure into like thinking about competing, and I was always being told. And I show you my very first ever check-in photo. I had more muscle mass in 2019 when I even found out what bodybuilding was, like than most beginner competitors did. Like I started with a lot of muscle mass, so I was really offended
Yeah.
at that time that someone was already trying to push enhancements on me because I was like, what? I spent my whole life like being an athlete, and now just because I want to get into this sport, you're telling me I only have a future if I do XYZ. Like it was, yeah.
That's the thing that really upsets me most about the sport, and it's also the thing as like that's my reasoning behind why I want to engineer a reboot for the entire sport as a whole. Because while the natural bodybuilding circuit does exist, it is incredibly marginalized within an already marginalized sport, and I don't think that it needs to be like that. And I I want to do everything in my power to change that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how did this? Okay, so you started in 2019. What was the division that you were competing in?
So, okay, so I actually don't think I've ever really told this part of the story, like how it all started, but it was like Christmas of 2019, and I decided that I was going to get myself a gym membership for Christmas, New Year's. So I actually started lifting in, um, and then uh, at that point, I was like living in Montreal, Canada, and we have a very popular bikini coach network over there. So I was sending my pictures, trying to find a good coach. I was like, I was like brand new. I had no idea really what I was even getting into, but and even then, the coaches back in beginning of 2020 were telling me you have too much muscle mass for bikini. Like you're gonna have to downsize your quads. And I was like, well, that's not something I'm willing to do. Like I was a track star. Like I'm not gonna, there's no way. And so I kind of just like was like, meh, whatever. I'll just do my own thing. And then I found a trainer who was like, yeah, you can do bikini. You just need to manipulate your body. And that's when they started pushing the drugs. And I was like, okay, no, I'll do my own thing again. So it started with this concept of just like it has to be bikini because like what else was there? And then in the summer of 2020, another coach approached me. She was a female coach. And she said, no, you can do wellness. It's a brand new category that's coming, and you fit the mark for it. And so by this point, we'd already been in lockdown. COVID was there. Gyms were closed. So I just was training in my apartment for this hypothetical competition that in Canada, we had no idea when we were going to come out of lockdown. And for a category that I had no idea what it was, like I had no idea what wellness was either. But she helped tweak me. So I had my first ever coach from like May, June to November of 2020. And then I competed in November 2020 in wellness, and I won the first place there. And it was a weird competition because like we weren't allowed audience, everything was still lockdown style, but that's when I was like, okay. And in Canada, in the CPA, because wellness was so new, I was one of the first wellness, competitors that living in Canada. And all the judges were like, this is your path. This is what you need to do. This is, your category. And then, lockdown continued and there was no gyms open, training, whatever. And that's when I was like, well, I need to get out of Canada because now a whole year had passed, 21. And that's when I decided to move to Mexico because here everything was still open. Canada just kept going back into their lockdowns. And when I moved here, I was like, I am not wellness. Like, are you crazy? I was like, these girls are jacked. These girls are huge. Like, I'm competing. Like, in Mexico in 2021, there was no natural bodybuilding here. Like, it's only come on the spectrum, I think, the last year. But then I was like, now what? I'm too big for bikini. I will never reach these wellness standards. It's just especially because I was living in,
Interesting.
yeah,
That okay. So wellness was the standard. Like your physique was the wellness standard in Canada,
yeah,
even though it was a relatively new division. And then by the time you get to Mexico, and it's like, so then you
yeah.
switched over to bikini.
No, well, okay. So my first ever competition in Mexico, which I have to give myself props for, like competing in another country, another language. It was all just like such a experience. But I prepped myself for a show in 22 in Mexico, and I entered bikini and wellness. And the judges were very clear. I'm still wellness. Even though I was one of the smaller girls, they awarded me first place at the regional level and third place at the national level in wellness. So even though I had competed, I did a crossover. So I tried bikini. Bikini, they were like, they were nice. They gave me fifth place bikini. So I still made top five. But even now, kind of looking back at the way things have progressed, I was like, you know, I'm like, that's great that they're telling me to keep going the wellness route, but I'm like, as a natural competitor, will I ever, get to that size, right? And so, yeah.
Okay. So what what was your last competition in?
Mm. So then in 2024, I also myself, and I entered 3 contests. It was the first time I got to compete as a natural athlete. That was huge because all of these competitions I've done leading up from 2020 have all been open. So, and that's one thing I want to say to natural competitors is don't be intimidated to step on an open stage. Like you're natural, you know you're natural. You know it in your heart. It doesn't matter if you decide to compete in open or in the natural stream. Experience is experience. Like the fact that I was going up against girls who've been enhanced for a decade, girls have been competing for longer than I even knew what bodybuilding was, and I still held my own as a natural athlete. I think that is like, something to write about. So I would say, but anyway, yeah, in 2024, I finally got to compete as a natural athlete in natural segregated shows, and I did really well. I ended up walking away first overall. And yeah. And it happened to be in Las Vegas, which is one of my favorite cities. So I just felt like I was so elevated, and it was so great to just see like a culmination of my work of being kind of like in between classes and not knowing where I stand, and then finally getting my first overall in wellness. I was like, okay, see the vision starting.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're a wellness girl.
So I'm wellness. I'm wellness. Like, and here's the thing, like some days I look at other bikini athletes online and I'm like, if that's bikini, then what am I? Like you get these kind of conflicting, like, girl, that girl's got quads for bikini. But I think you just have to, at the end of the day, build the body that you want, right?
Mhm.
And the body that I want is, what I have and more. So I just don't ever want to think about downsizing. So if there's no downsizing, then there's only going up from here. So yeah, I'm wellness and I'm going to keep pushing that my physique naturally is the wellness standard. Like just because I think too, most people see wellness and they see it in the open division and they're so used to that shape and that look that when they see me they're like, oh, she's bikini, but I'm not. And I do have a lot of density and a lot of muscle mass and maturity because I have been an athlete for so long that I think like I do carry enough to be wellness and continue that route. So yeah.
I like you're pretty quotable. You said something, build the body that you want. I really like that. Build the body that you want.
Yeah, it's what I tell my girls, like as a coach, like at the end of the day, sure you can bodybuild to fit into a category, but that is going to become very unsatisfying after a while if you're trying to constantly fit someone's criteria, especially because bikini is so subjective. Like it's really like. And so with me and with the girls that I coach, I'm like, you have to be happy in that body. So, if you have to spend the next 5, 10 years constantly downsizing or fitting a certain criteria, I think that's going to have a toll on you. And so I want the density, the mass, and yeah.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful. Could
yeah.
would you agree that it is the fact that the judging criteria or the standard for these divisions is what really creates it's what so an athlete comes into the sport and they want to win because all athletes are competitive and athletes they don't participate in a sports event without the intention to do their best and win within the sport of bodybuilding because it's primarily focused around physiques and each division has has a specific judging criteria. Couldn't we say that that's the reason why athletes are being incentivized to take steroids because the judging criteria rewards the physique that looks like the steroided look?
Yeah. I would say I would say so much so that it's even trickled down into bikini, right? Like
Mm.
that girls hearing they don't have enough muscle mass for bikini, and it's like, what does that even mean? And so I do worry sometimes that this concept of trying to fit into a certain category is making girls resort to enhancements that might not even be necessary, that sometimes they go overboard and now they're beyond what the category requires. And, you know, they're like, it's just, and I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've seen some girls who are enhanced that have physiques that I personally like would not aspire to achieve, you know? So it's kind of like, yeah, I think it comes down, the onus comes down to the athlete. Like, what body do you want to walk around with every day? And then you need to, you know, because here's the thing. When I started bodybuilding in 2019, someone told me this and it really stuck with me. Even though there is criteria for a category, you can change that criteria. You can show up on one day and they go, wait a second, that's what we want wellness to look like. And so if you're constantly trying to manipulate your body to fit into whatever everyone else is doing or how everyone else shows up, you might be missing your, you might be that one missing piece of the puzzle, or you might have that star power, that quality that shows up one day and changes things. Like, you know, and there are a few examples of this already that exist in the industry, but I would just, yeah, go back to saying you need to build the body you want, and then you put that on stage and go, no, I believe in wellness, and this is what I think wellness should look like, and I need y'all to get on board with what this is right now. And yeah.
That's beautifully said, and I love your mindset. I love your perspective. I think it's very unique. Personally, I've always resonated with mavericks. I would say that what you're describing is that of like a maverick mentality where you're kind of carving your own niche, going against the grain, and you don't really care because this is what resonates within your spirit. Um, so what I want to pick your brain on this because I'm trying to figure out. So I'm working on a documentary project that first, the whole point is to crown the next sports icon to come out of bodybuilding and ensure that it's a natural athlete, and it's called the Natty King. And directly after we crown that next icon out of the male side of the sport, I really want to focus on the female side. The issue that I'm running into is I want to be able to draw a direct comparison against the Mr. Olympia champions. So if we have the Natty King, who will likely end up being this incredibly aesthetic, fantastic physique, but we're also putting a lot of emphasis on movement and bringing the sport back to the prioritization of posing. And
Mhm.
this Natty King athlete who ends up winning the crown, not only will he have a great physique, but he's also going to know how to present that physique in a pristine, effortless, and fluid way. And when we put that in contrast to the Mr. Olympia champion, you're going to be able to see that movement literacy is incentivized over on the natural side, and size and excess is incentivized on the enhanced side. The question I want to ask you, and I am taking my time with the Natty Queen just because I feel like I need more data. I feel like I need more perspective and I need more insight from the female athletes. How would you like, if you were, I'll just ask you the question, like how would you go about drawing that distinction between natural athletes in this sport and enhanced so far as women are concerned? Yeah.
So like you kind of like already said it, but like there is this obvious wow factor with mass. Everyone wants to see, you know, big, crazy looking athletes, but they want to see them on stage. Cool, that's awesome. But in everyday life, people are not really drawn to or attracted by reaching that mass in their own physique. And so I think that for a female athlete, their their eyes are going to be drawn to a natural looking aesthetic. And so I think that you don't even really need to create this crazy distinguish between the two because the general population is drawn to a natural looking physique. Again, it's great on the big stages to go, wow, that person looks crazy. Look at her glutes. But in the everyday world, most people understand that they're not going to achieve that unless they go that route. So we need more role models. We need more women who are willing to talk about the hard work that it takes to achieve a lean, beautifully toned physique that is healthy, that is vibrant, that it has longevity. And I think that there is an education portion that needs to happen in our world. I'm very honest when a woman wants to hire me as a coach and they're like, I want to do, a competition. I want this, I want that, I want that kind of physique. I want your shoulders. I'm like, okay, it takes years. It takes a lot of work. It takes duplication, day after day after day of doing the hard work. And I think that if we don't educate people on like the real process of what it takes to build these kinds of physiques, they're also not going to have that great of an appreciation because they're just going to go, okay, wow, she's got a great body, like lucky for her. And it's like, no, I want to show people, especially even after I won my last overall, they were interviewing me and whatever, and I was like, this is years and years of figuring out who I am as a person, what my body is capable of, how to lift properly. I really specialize in helping women lift without pain. So like people healing from, past injuries or this and that. And so it's like you got to coach these women to understand that it is not easy to get this kind of physique naturally. So I would say definitely first inspiring them by showing them that this is possible, and then educating them and bringing, that population in with us and going like, this is possible, but I'm going to educate you and show you that it's not been easy, but you too can have it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You're hitting a lot of points, and for one, I think you're amazing, and I genuinely love your passion, and I love your ability to articulate it. One recurring thing that I've been hearing for like the past couple of weeks, and I would love to obviously run an actual poll on this, is that people are more inclined to achieve the physique that a natural athlete embodies rather than just kind of gawk at the
Mm.
enhanced athlete.
Mm.
The thing is though that, so if you're to break it down between, I mean, there are natural federations. The top cash prize of a enhanced athlete, I believe it's at either $500,000 or $600,000 right now. So that goes to the Mr. Olympia winner or the Arnold Classic winner in the open category.
It was 750 last night.
750. Wow. There you go. 750. Shout out Andrew Jack, right? The top cash prize for a natural athlete across all federations, I think it scratches, as of 2024, I think it was like 50,000,
Oh, wow.
which is like a very stark contrast between 750,000. So I guess the question is, if the general public truly prefer the natural aesthetic physique more, then how is it the case, or why is it so that the spectacle of enhancements, the spectacle of distorted physiques is so monetizable,
Mm.
you know, compared to the natural physique? I think it's got to be because we're not properly promoting the natural physique.
I mean, it's going to come down to promotion. It's going to come down to, again, education. I think also sponsorship, and I think just overall support from fitness brands, from, the industry in general. Like the industry needs to also help prop up natural athletes. It's like, sure, as athletes, we can't just keep going and knocking on doors. Like they see our work, right? They see us there. I think there has to be this elevation. We have to elevate the natural athletes, and that's going to come down from obviously people who have the means to do that. All these big fitness brands at these expos, but when it comes to a natural show, like where is that support? Like why not, promote or sponsor or, natural shows? I think it's going to come down to the industry as a whole helping bring up those athletes, because yeah, I mean there is a stark, because that prize money comes from sponsors, right? And sure, ticket sales, but I think that if we started as a whole industry to really prop up natural athletes and make, like even at the Arnold at the Arnold Amateur or the Olympia Amateur, there should still be an Olympia natural, like Arnold natural. Like it should all be happening at the same weekend. And so, so that we can be on the same stage as the amateurs and as the pros.
Hmm.
Because this is the thing too. Most people will assume an amateur athlete is, oh, maybe they're natural. No, amateurs are still enhanced, right?
Hmm.
They're still
Hmm.
on their way trying to be a pro in the open world. And I think that they're maybe, just maybe, we're looking at this separation and segregation wrong. Maybe there needs to be more separation, understanding that this is one world, another, but under the umbrella of, bodybuilding, both can exist.
Well,
So yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're completely on the same page because I feel like while I do see the value of, let's say, so Arnold Classic was just this weekend, so it's most immediate. If Arnold Classic, you got the Arnold Amateur, and then you've got the Arnold Classic Naturals and the Arnold Classic Amateur Naturals all happening on the same weekend, it's still, I feel like the distinction is still too, we're still like giving the thumbs up to the enhanced side just because like the physiques are so drastically different, especially within like the men's side. But even with the women's side, like if you were to see like an enhanced wellness athlete and a natural wellness athlete, and they're in these two very distinct divisions, enhanced and natural, I don't know. I think it does need to be separated, you know? And the whole purpose of the Natty King and the Natty Queen is to basically attach like a rocket to the natural side and bring them to the same prominence with the use of narrative storytelling. I want to
Mhm.
suggest that on the enhanced side there is a emphasis of spectacle, excess, and win at all costs. Whereas on the natural side, so far as the promotion of the Natty King and Natty Queen, there is there is an emphasis on artistic integrity and refinement. So excess versus refinement, and we will be able to properly display that in the format of, let's say, a docu-series or a feature-length film, where whenever we show the enhanced side, we're literally just showing the concept of excess, and whenever we show the natural side, we're showing the concept of refinement.
Yeah, and I'm in total agreement with that. Posing coach, I'm an dancer, so movement for me, posing for me is top. I even say like I won shows against open girls because I outposed them. Like that is 100% it. Like sure they have double my size, but I can move and I have that feminine quality still. That's not to shade anybody. It's just very obvious. So I'm in agreement with you that I do think that um, you could use that as a way to help um, distinguish between the worlds. But I mean, there is still no reason why a natural stage can exist under these umbrellas of Olympia and I think that the more we try to separate the two like that, like whereas like natural athletes are not going to compete at the Olympia because there we're showing enhanced and want to have our own thing. I think that I get that, but I also worry that it'll just never ever really then get to that global place because they're all so far in, know what I mean? And I think that if we wanted major sponsors and major, elevation, I think that we have to show that we can hold our own as naturals, but in that same world. So I'm with you that I think like the that like separation of like having like our own, contests, our own federations and everything is so important. It's so important. But there is no guarantee that you stepping on an OCB, an NPC Natural, any of those federations that you're competing against natural athletes. So like at the end of the day, you're still paying to play. You're still paying to enter a show. You still have a chance of. It's happened to me. I've stepped on a natural stage and the girl beside me was clearly enhanced. And here's the other thing is that it comes down to the judges as well. Because if the judges are going to award an enhanced athlete at a natural show, then what is the point of separating us? So it's like at the end of the day, you also need to trust that when you're going to step on a natural stage, regardless of who the federation is, that those judges are going to be able to look and have a trained eye, because this is one thing that really kind of maybe gets under my skin a little bit, is that the judges are going to go, wow, she still has crazy mass, and even though this is a natural show, like, she's the standout, but she's not the standout in this show because she doesn't actually belong in this show. So that's kind of like where we keep circling back, and it's like, if you're going to award an enhanced athlete at a natural show, then what is the point of separating us? If a judge cannot tell the difference, what is the point of separating us? And if the judges are going to tighten up and go, no, for real, because drug tests is just not enough. Like, a judge should be able to look and check for injections, all of that kind of stuff. So, at the end of the day, if they're going to tighten that up, then we should still be able to compete on those really big platforms, having hundreds of thousands of people in the audience, and trust that everyone that we're on stage with is also natural. So it's going to come down to the organizers, the judges, the coaches, everyone, because there are a lot of coaches in this field that will put girls on, clenbuterol for, a few months and then take them off and claim they're natural or whatever it is. So how do we fix that?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I spoke to a IFBB pro a couple weeks ago who's also a promoter. So he promotes two shows in Mexico, actually. He promotes an enhanced show and a natural show. And he presented me with the perspective that the IFBB specifically go where the money goes. So if there is a lot of interest going into natural, they will better promote natural shows. So with the two shows that he did, I believe last year in Mexico, it was like 60% of earnings for the natural show compared to the enhanced show. And he thought that was kind of impressive, especially since it was like the first time that there was a natural show in Mexico. So to your point, as the natural community continues to grow over the next couple of years, specifically to the IFBB, they are not, in fact, they're doing everything that they can to better promote natural athletes in the natural circuit, but it's got to be off of demand. It's got to be off of interest, which is why they're creating things like the Fit Model and the Ben Wieters Naturals. Like, all of this is being done with the intention to kind of appeal to the widest market possible. So,
Yeah.
and I guess
I mean,
just,
if
mm-hmm,
money talks, right? So of
yeah.
course, like, and that's again where the sponsorship is going to go. So, in order for us to get a piece of that pie, it's got to be, we got to keep educating and keep showing that there is a network. There is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of natural, real competitors, like real people trying to make it in the world, who want to get on Olympia stages and who will never take enhancements. I think the other thing too, like, there's a fine line between people who will compete naturally until they get their pro card, and then they'll go enhance because they want to compete at the Olympia and be competitive. There are some of us who will never ever take any of it, and so it's like, we need to really get back to, like, natural means natural, and there is a reason why we stayed natural, the reason why we're going to stay natural. And yeah, I love your concept about getting our stories out there, because it's like, I'll stay natural until I win my pro card, but then I need to enhance in order to be competitive. No, 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 no. Like, I'm going to go to the Olympia natural, and I'm going to keep, so it's like, you need to know my story, and you'll understand why I will never enhance.
So you're actually kind of reaffirming this, my entire strategy, because you're kind of describing this whole thing as like of a spectrum of intention, where every athlete who enters the sport enters. I mean, everyone was born natural. Everyone, the entire planet was born natural, right? So there is a journey between birth to deathbed where you either stay natural the entire time or you are motivated to take steroids. There's a lot of
Right.
motivation to take steroids within the sport of bodybuilding. A lot. In fact,
Totally.
year one, if you decide to be a competitive bodybuilder, it is likely that you will be approached by the first coach telling you that you need to take steroids. Whether you say yes or no that first time does not mean that it just goes away forever. You start competing, you get your pro card. Now you get reinforced again to take steroids because it's like, okay, well, now that you got a pro card, if you want to get on the Mr. Olympia stage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's always a constant reminder. In that spectrum of lifetime natural to an enhanced athlete, the question then becomes, what is the motivating force? What is the intention of this specific athlete as to why they're choosing A, to either stay natural, or B, to take steroids? And you cannot show that on a stage, because on a stage you're just looking at physiques. That is the sport. The sport is just physiques. So the only way that we can properly display the psychology of these athletes is through storytelling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and I love that. I love that concept because at the end of the day, like, we also need to lift each other up, right? If I can trust in my heart that you say you're natural and you've always been stay natural, then that is something I want to help promote as well, because can you be persuaded? There are a lot of girls who I competed against who said they were natural. I believe they were natural, but then again, I go and look at their pictures and I'm like, oh, they've switched over. It's very obvious. And so it's like, I for one cannot be persuaded. So I do feel like my message needs to be out there and to show and encourage that, like, yeah, we are fighting against the grain because it's been said to me many, many times that I'm not going to have the ability to go far in this industry without that. And then so it's like, also by whose standards? Far meaning what, right? Like, again, like you're saying, like you want to create, this whole industry. And actually, the one thing too that kind of like blew my mind is after I won my overall in Las Vegas, there was a lot of talk about like, oh, we're going to promote natural athletes and, only real natural athletes can work for, major brands like Nike and this and that. And then it's like ghost after the show. And it's like, where, we had all this momentum and then it's just like on to the next show. And it's like, what about the people who won, who became these, images, these edifications of what you want to see as a natural athlete, and then you kind of just let them drop, or it's like, again, is there a real partnership here? Is there longevity for us? Are you just doing natural shows because there's money to be made, or do you really want to put these athletes up there and tell their stories or not? Because it's kind of like, to me, it just seems like we're still a little bit in this like world, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit, this is another reason too why I almost didn't want to compete anymore, because I was like, what is the point, right? Like, what is the point? Where is this going? What is the future for natural bodybuilders, especially people who are going to always be natural?
Wow. 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 Yeah, you said a mouthful. You said something, what was it? That you're not going to get far in this industry if you stay natural. I like that. The fact that someone is saying that you're not going to get far in this industry if you stay natural. I think we have to create a different industry. One that is just centered around different criteria and different philosophy. Because within the fitness industry and within the current state of bodybuilding, which is precisely why I want to engineer a reboot, the incentivization is spectacle at all costs. The incentivization is create something that people can gawk at. And not even the better looking physique, it's the bigger physique, the freakier physique. That is the thing that draws attention, and that's where the money's going. And again, like I will say this over and over, the only way to combat against spectacle is through art and mythic storytelling.
Yeah.
That way, the natural athlete gets to stay natural and grounded in their own philosophy and ideals, And we're using that mindset as a vehicle to tell a very compelling story against the enhanced side. So we actually get to work with the enhanced side by drawing a very distinct comparison between the two, the yin and yang of bodybuilding, the yin and yang of the fitness industry. On the one side, you have athletes who are just being conditioned and programmed to believe that their physiques are not good enough as they are, and that the freakier the physique, the better. And we can show that contrast, and we can show what a shame it is for a person to adopt that mindset in pursuit of money, in pursuit of recognition, in pursuit of opportunities, because those are the only opportunities that exist. Whereas on the natural side, we are committed, and this is what's very interesting to me, and this is why I really enjoy talking to you. We are committed beyond the reward for staying natural, because as it's been presented to us, there is no reward.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so we have, this is the thing. It's almost like we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I look at myself as being natural as like I've I'm winning. Are you crazy? I've never touched a single peptide drug. I don't even know shit about that shit because I don't want to. It's like it doesn't even enter my world, and for that I am like I'm winning in my mind, my relationship to myself, to and I'm going to tell you something. There have been moments, again, I started back 2019, 2020, but there have been moments where I've gone, fuck, Fran, if you did just do it, where would you be? Right? But God put this in me. Like, I can't, there are some days where I'm like, why do I have such a connection to staying natural? Why is it so ingrained in my DNA that I will not, when other girls are like, yeah, like, let's do it all. And then in the breast augmentations, I'm like, I can't, like, there's something inside me that is saying no. And so I'm like, if God put this message in me, if God put this in me to be like, no, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, then I'm already winning because I'm staying true to myself. I'm staying true to my message, what is literally in my DNA, and there is no manipulating that. So yeah, I do think that I'm already winning. And when you hear someone with this external perception saying like, well, you're not going to win or you're not going to go anywhere unless these things, I'm like, that's the total opposite of how I feel. I feel like if I ever enhanced, I would immediately think of myself as a loser.
Well said. Well said. There's this image as you're talking, and I don't know if I've given you enough preface, but I am very grounded in my background as a filmmaker and storyteller, writer, actor. Like I'm from the performing arts. I entered bodybuilding and was like, oh my god, this is perfect for a documentary. This is perfect for, and I refer to it as a documentary, but it's more so a cinematic universe where my intention is to capture the entire state of the fitness landscape and present stars, heroes, role models, and icons on the natural side to lead a movement for natural human potential. And that plays out in the form of a docuseries, in the form of a feature-length film, in the form of an anime. That's my entire vision for the sport. The image that I had as you were speaking was an athlete who is natural, who is grounded in their own belief system of their own potential. And it's a smaller physique, but it's a beautiful physique. It is one that you would see in a Greek statue. And right next to that athlete is a Nick Walker type of individual who blast gear to the maximum, hulks over the other individual, veins popping
Yes.
out the wazoo, and he just looks like a true freak of nature. And when I see those two images put next to each other, I feel like you could present that to literally anyone on the planet, and I'd ask them, who do you think is the good guy in this situation if you had to pick one?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny. My friend said to me the other day, like, don't ever cross the dark side. And I'm like, I won't. Like, and I think that that's something that maybe I'm starting to grow is this awareness of my fans and my followers and my family knowing that I will never, and that they can trust me that I will never. Because, like I said before, I even have fan, like I was a fan of, competitors, and then I see them cross over. I'm like, really? You were saying you were never going to do it, and now someone got in your ear, or someone dangled something and you jumped ship. I think what's really important is that we are telling our stories in a way that we can create a trust that people who are going to follow us are going to trust that we're not cheating the system, lying, or playing around with cutting at a certain time out. No, like no, natty means natty. Like, to me, it's like if you can't find it in a local store, you shouldn't be using it. Like,
Yeah.
that's my on it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And to your point, I love that you referred to it as the dark side. One great parallel that I see playing out is I'm sure you're familiar with Star Wars. Right. Yeah, of course, everyone who isn't, right? So you got Star Wars, you got the dark side, which are the Sith, and then you got the light side, which are the Jedi. What I see playing out within the sport of bodybuilding and the fitness industry is a lot of people, even the enhanced athletes within the sport, they refer to the enhanced side as the dark side, right? But they don't, and they can't promote it that way. They can't say, oh, the dark side of the sport is the amount of steroid use that's being incentivized in order to be a very high level competitor, yada, yada, yada. I watched two films over the past month. One was Bigger, which is the Joe Weider biopic. It's a feature length film, scripted. And they depict Joe Weider as this, like, the father of bodybuilding. He's all about promoting health and wellness, mind, body, and spirit, and how resistance training will increase your longevity. Yet he's bringing on athletes that have to take steroids in order to be the face of this vision for the sport. Yet they make no reference of the fact that these athletes are taking steroids within the film. Zero reference. Then there's another documentary film called Mr. Olympia, which was basically showing the 2024 production of the Olympia competition. And again, zero reference of steroid use. So if the enhanced side is the dark side of the sport, and they're not mentioning it within highly publicized content and media formats, then it is our responsibility as the light side to draw a proper distinction between the two, because the dark side's not doing it. And why would they? That would be like, I don't know how much you watch Star Wars, but that would be like Senator Palpatine or Darth Sidious saying, "Hey, I'm a bad guy," to the Senate. Like,
Right.
they don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, they can't expose themselves because they created this image that they are health and wellness.
Thank you.
And yeah, like they can't expose that. I think social media has helped people start to clue in that, okay, that's obviously not natural. But I don't think people understand how unnatural it is, how many years of use. Even a classic skinny girl has been on PEDs for 8, 9, 10 years, right? And now they're finally winning Olympics. It's like, what? So it's not just like you take a few injections and then you blow up. This is years and years of use of these products, and so, yeah, they're never going to expose it. Also, it's like the pharma world, right? They're not going to expose that pharma is bad because these big pharma companies are sponsoring these shows. So if you ever were to talk like, oh, taking pharma is bad, I mean, there goes your bread and butter. You got to look at some of these major pharma companies that are sponsoring the Olympia and the Arnold, and so they're never going to make it seem like drugs are bad. Like, that's just not going to happen in that world. It's almost like you could do a whole documentary of the dark side of bodybuilding and expose and follow someone like a Nick Walker and be like, tell us what you're really on. Show us in how many times you're injecting your body. Like, you know what I mean? Like, show us what it really takes. And a lot of these bodybuilders are not going to expose the ramifications of the process, the side effects of the process. And so it's kind of like, yeah, it's just two different worlds. But again, it's like at the end of the day, we want same exposure, and so maybe again it come from the same brands or under the same platform. But I still believe in my mind that we can have major shows like the Olympia for natural athletes, you know,
I
so.
agree. I agree. Joseph, you just said the pharmaceutical industry is making billions from bodybuilders. It's like a drug dealer selling crack to the community.
Because stop, and that's another thing I tell my clients. It's like, you see that girl and you want that physique, you understand what she's doing to get physique, you know, and so I think a lot of people need to start again on education, but maybe the way we elevate our world is by showing what really happens in that one,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, and
Hmm.
like kind of that dark versus light, and showing people like just prolong it a little bit longer. Brand new bodybuilder and you are working with a coach who's already talking to you about PEDs, you need to find a different coach, which is what I did. I dropped that. Like the way he approached me, it was all very creepy. Thank God my spidey sense went off because at that point I didn't know any better. But there are brand new competitors in this industry who just trust their coaches blindly and think that whatever they say is going to, you know, all of a sudden answer all these questions for them and you know, give them this growth. It doesn't work like that. So, you know, just really, really taking it back to like showing the hard work and dedication it takes to build our physiques and to keep saying no to those temptations, right?
How do you feel about the quote? This was something that someone commented on my content yesterday. Regardless as to whether or not you're natural or enhanced, the hard work stays the same. How do you feel about that statement?
So I those kinds of quotes all the time. And the other day, I actually saw a coach finally admit that an athlete taking PEDs, enhancements, drugs, and sitting on their couch doing jack all is still going to gain more muscle mass than a natural athlete who's putting in hard work every single time. So how do you know that statistically and still think that you know they have to put in the same amount of hard work? Like, you know, at the end of the day, if we're not using anything to get lean, who's working harder technically to get lean, right? For a show. If we're building muscle mass using just food, who's working harder? Like it just at the end of the day, I do applaud that they've put in the years in the gym and that they're following a plan and they look amazing, but they gave up on their own genetics a long time ago. So,
You just hit me right here, man.
you know, so who's working harder? I would argue to say the fact that us natural athletes in this world who want the same recognition as all of them work hard every day just by motivating ourselves to stay natural.
I mean, yeah, to an extent, I would say, I it's so great to talk to you because we're like this, right? But I'm very frustrated and I'm angry because natural bodybuilding wasn't promoted properly when I was in high school. I've always liked lifting. I've always liked the concept of improving your body. And when I was 17, my understanding of bodybuilding was a steroid infused sport. Like you have to take steroids in order to be at the competitive level. Ronnie Coleman was Mr. Olympia when I was graduating high school. I,
Right.
I saw Ronnie Coleman and I thought that was a physique I never wanted to possess. I thought it was something like, all right, there's novelty to having a physique walking around like that, but like, why would you want to wake up like that every single day? The functionality of that physique is limited. The mobility, the form, all of it is just, it's not conducive to a healthy and long lasting lifestyle. There's nothing about that physique that screams health. So why would I want to look like that? For me, there is no greater incentive to stay natural beyond just, I love my body. I
Correct.
love, I love what I was born into. And it would be a disservice to inject it with something that harms it, endangers it, or augments it. To me, I'm telling myself that if I were to inject myself with performance enhancing drugs, steroids, even cosmetic enhancements, I'm telling myself that I don't value my own natural gifts.
And sorry to cut you off, but here's where this kind of also drives me wild is that enhanced athletes will look at that as, oh, you guys got a chip on your shoulder. I've heard it. I've heard natural athletes have a chip on their shoulders because they think that if they're not enhanced, they're better than us. I mean, it's not a, it's, it's not a, like, I'm trying to be better than any of you. It's just, I love myself. I love my physique. I love my work ethic. I love what it feels like. I love everything about the vision in my mind that God put there is for me and me alone. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to understand why I don't get enhanced. There are so many people that will ask me, like, why? Like, why haven't you? Like, I'm crazy for not doing it. Like, wild.
Okay, let me ask you this huge question. And okay, all right, I'm gonna phrase it this way. So I like to consider myself something of a futurist, and my mind is always to
Same.
what's coming in the future, right? And peptides are a new thing on the market. As technology and science continues to advance, what I have perceived is that there is a normalization of fixing yourself through the use of enhancements, drugs, peptides, cosmetic surgeries. You come into this world one way, and as you continue to age, you start seeing crow's feet, or you start seeing size or your breast size. How do we feel about the fact that it would seem that within modern society, it is more normalized and it is more status quo to fix yourself with an augmentation or an enhancement than just to stay natural from here to your deathbed? How do you feel about that?
I feel like, oh my God, I feel like maybe this is even why we have connected, but I feel like it is my mission on this planet to educate people to really love the skin and the body you are in because the way that people are rearranging their faces and doing this, and again, I'm like a fan of some of these people. I'm like, you did that? Like, you don't even look the same. Like, it actually breaks my heart because I look up to some of them too, and I'm like, I can't look at you the same way anymore. And I think the general population, they see that and they think like, do I need to do that? And I think if we were just the light, the voice that says you don't, I think they just need to hear that you don't need to do it. Look again, there are times where I look at myself and I think like, okay, we all have those moments, I have my features and the things, but I'm like, but I would never. And it plays in your mind, but just like choosing not to be enhanced, you have to every day choose to love the skin you're in. And I think that there's always going to be a quick fix. There's always going to be a solution, and it just comes down to mental fortitude and education and just really helping people wrap their mind around, like, if you really love your body and your physique, you're not going to want to change it in that way, and that the changes that you want to make are going to be natural changes to your diet, to your hydration, to the way you talk to yourself. I'm all about like personal development and that sort of thing. So I think that the industry thrives off people who don't have that mental fortitude. And so all we can do is show them and lead.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess my biggest concern is that we are in the minority. It's like how
Oh,
many iconic, like, Kobe Bryant, perfect example. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, David Goggins, very strong mental fortitude, very strong. But I just named three people out of billions.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, that's really the struggle, is that the fitness industry, the sport of bodybuilding, are preying on individuals who do not have that self-confidence, that self-belief, that their potential is enough to achieve greatness. And then it goes back into like, well, what is your concept of greatness? What is your concept of beauty? Because that's also getting distorted. Because if they're rewarding drastically out of proportion physiques, and like they're saying that this is the standard for you to pursue, this is the standard that's being rewarded with money, fame, recognition. Okay, well, I didn't think that I liked that, but I guess I do like it because that's coming along with the rewards.
Or I guess I have to put this very toxic thing in my body in order to be somebody. That is the most distorted like thing about the fitness industry for sure, is like you need to do XYZ in order to be somebody. No, 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 no. And that's the thing. If I'm gonna lose on stage, I don't have the fake breasts, or I have wrinkles, or I like, then let it be. Then it is what it is. But inside, how I feel, and how, and I have, again, what I said at the beginning of the show, I have to live with this body. I have to love it. And so if we're constantly being bombarded with, you need to do this, then those are that, like, again, you are losing control. You've lost the plot. If you have to, listen to or think that that's the only way to get, again, who defines success? What I think of myself as successful, someone beside me is going to go, oh, she's got a long way to go. But I already feel successful. So they can't tell me otherwise because I already know. And so, yeah, again, it's just going to come down to leading by example, showing what's possible, showing, and maybe with your skills, you can really help show the day-to-day life, like that it takes meditation, it takes awareness, it takes hydration. I've worked in the hydration industry for a very long time. Most people have no clue about water. Athletes have no clue about the differences in their water, and the harmful impact drinking terrible water can have on your body. So it's just like, it's these levels of education. And I think just showing people overall what's possible with our genetics is going to really bridge the gap. Because I think just most people see that and they go, the only way to get there is through, and it's not true. It's not true. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Fran, you're an ally,
So
for
good on you for having this platform, for being brave enough as well. There have been moments where I've kind of shut down because I'm like, maybe people just think like, Fran, shut up already. We get it. You're natural. Like, and it's like, no, it's like, and I'll say it every once in a while in my story. Like, I hope I just inspire one person to just go a little bit further with their genetics, like, if it's, because again, we can't change the minds of millions, especially when they have that star power and the buy power. So we just gotta, again, keep just leading by example, and just, if we can, I don't want to be like dramatic, but save a life, like, you know, and just by showing like what is capable if you just trust yourself.
yeah.
And so good
So
for you for having.
thank you. And I'll just say that the really, really good news, and the reason why I go to sleep without much concern for the success of this movement, is that throughout the entire history of human civilization, we love underdog stories. And the earliest underdog story that is the most popular is David versus Goliath. David was a small little boy going up against a literal giant, and he slayed him with a rock. And to me, that is the story that is playing out within the sport of bodybuilding and within the fitness industry, where there are individuals like ourselves who are committed to the pursuit of their own natural human potential and the integrity that is associated with that. And we are going up against the enhanced belief that their physique, however big it might get, however distorted it might get, is superior. So
Yeah.
we'll play the underdogs and we'll win.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm here for all of it. So, whenever you need help with your projects, I mean, I'm in Mexico, but yeah, I think you're onto something here.
I
So,
appreciate it, Fran. You're awesome. I think you're super cool. Last question. What part of Mexico is EST?
so I'm on the Quintana Roo side, so Cancun is my time zone.
Okay. Okay.
Cancun is like the Toronto. Well, I think Toronto. I think they went through a time change last night, actually, but we don't
Got it.
change time.
Got it.
So it's
Okay.
11 a.m.
Love it. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep in touch. I think you're amazing. I will definitely figure out how to, because like the Natty Queen is supposed to focus on individuals like yourself. I think you're a perfect candidate for that storyline. So as that continues to take shape, I will always be thinking of you.
Thank you.
Of
I'm
course.
so able to talk about something that is so important to me.
Me too.
So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll keep in touch and have a great Sunday.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.